Good afternoon, Council. My name is Tim Douglas, the elected president of AFSCME Local 127. I'm here today with Andreas Alva-Cardenas, who is the business rep for AFSCME Local 127. I'm handing it over to Andreas.
Good afternoon, Council. As stated, Andres Alva-Cardenas, business representative of AFSCME Local 127, here to speak and present on behalf of 127 with regard to AB 2561, addressing public sector staffing shortages. Next slide, please. Briefly, an overview of the presentation. First, I'll give an overview of our bargaining unit. Second, I'll transition into the impact of high vacancy rates on our bargaining unit and in turn the city. Third, I'll transition to the amendment to the MMBA. And fourth, but certainly not least, our expectations moving forward. Next slide, please. First, an overview of our bargaining unit. On membership, as you can see from the slide, nearly all of our members are employed by or come from the city of San Diego. Next, on departments, our bargaining unit is quite wide and far-ranging. We cover departments in financial, neighborhood services, infrastructure, as well as operational support. Next, on job classifications, again, like I mentioned, quite a big bargaining unit with varying job classifications up to about 120. That fluctuates from year to year. And those duties and responsibilities include some of the most important within the city of San Diego, from cleaning parks, servicing equipment and vehicles, repairing streets, picking up refuse from single-family homeowners, fixing lights, and treating water. Importantly here, and that's at the bottom of the slide, is that although we're the essential employees, as the COVID-19 pandemic correctly stated, we are the lowest paid REO of all the REOs within the city. I'll repeat that for emphasis. Although we are the essential employees, the employees who kept working through the COVID-19 pandemic, we remain the lowest paid among all the REOs. Next slide, please. Second, the impact of vacancies on our bargaining unit and in turn the city. It begins with a simple statement that understaffing unfairly burdens staff and adversely impacts service levels. Back in the spring of 2023, as a part of our request for information while we were in contract negotiations with the city of San Diego, we discovered that our average vacancy rate across our bargaining unit was 23%. That's high. So we made some changes. And thanks to, and this cannot be overstated either, the work of Department Director of Personnel, David Gallagher, and his team, they got that rate reduced by about 8% to our current levels of 15%. So truly, we applaud David Gallagher and his efforts as director of the personnel department, as well as his staff. But we forewarned this council that we do not want to slide back to previous levels. Because as we know, high vacancy rates or understaffing levels correlate to a couple things. I'll just pluck out a few from the list. Mandatory OT, vehicle incidents, liability and litigation, turnover rate and retention issues, as well as the loss of institutional knowledge, which we need quite a bit. Importantly, especially on litigation, and perhaps the city attorneys will have something to say about this as well. On average, the city of San Diego pays out about $100 million per year to fight liabilities that it owes to residents, to others, to companies. That, as you can tell, is too high. We like to work to avoid that. Next slide, please. Third, the amendment to the MMBA, formerly known as AB 2561, now known as Government Code Section 3502.3. AFSCME Local 127, and as well as the AFSCME International team sponsored the amendment. Our president, Tim Douglas, testified before the Committee on Public Employment and Retirement. As a part of that testimony, he spoke about the vacancy issues of the sanitation drivers of the Environmental Services Department. In short, there was a significant difference when employees were fully staffed, when the department was fully staffed, versus when they were not fully staffed. In other words, when they're fully staffed, they're able to meet operational needs on a much better scale. So the simple takeaway is this. If you increase staffing levels, you also increase productivity, and you also increase effectiveness of these departments to help meet the ever-increasing operational needs to meet the demand of service levels of your constituents. So we need them to be fully funded. Next slide, please. And fourth, and like I said, certainly not least, expectations of AFSCME Local 127 as we move forward, despite the difficult decisions that we have ahead of us as we work through the budget deficit. Framing. For those of you council members who are rightfully concerned about some historic inequities within your constituents and within your districts, I want to remind you or make sure that you understand that when you invest in AFSCME Local 127, when you support AFSCME Local 127, you're helping to do a couple of things, which include reversing systemic inequities, fighting for working class communities, and investing in communities and people. Most of our folks are brown and black folks from many of the districts that you all serve. As a matter of fact, many of them back in January of 2024 were working while also serving their own community. In other words, they were on the clock serving their own neighborhoods to help repair the damages that the unprecedented storms had done. But this is not something that's necessarily new to this council in particular. So we ask for some continuity. Through the compensation philosophy that this city council passed back in February of 2022, we appreciate your work on that. We hope that you will continue your work on that to help our job classifications meet labor market medians so remain a competitive employer within the region. And from the mayor's office, the mayor has also been increasingly supportive of AFSCME Local 127 as well. Back in August of 2023, during the Staff to Front Lines tour of AFSCME International, the mayor's office joined us in committing themselves to being an employee-centric organization and agency. We appreciate that. So to more of the practical side of things, we do expect you all to invest and protect the progress that we've made here. To staff's point about protecting the progress, that's important to our employees and to our employees moving forward. To avoid rifts and layoffs. To do this, there are a couple of things that you all know you have to do, which include being austere and generate revenue. On austerity in particular, and this perhaps goes without saying, is a little bit obvious, but still needs to be said. We look for you all to help us minimize the contracting out work and the privatization because, as we know, companies and corporations make profit off of the city, whereas a city department, when requesting to be fully funded or for X, Y, and Z equipment or X, Y, and Z addition to FTEs, does not. They just want to complete the work. In addition to that, and importantly, we expect you all, and I do want to create emphasis here, to support targeted revenue. Specifically, and since it's coming up next month, refuse collection fees. For those of you council members who are concerned about the disproportionate impacts it might have on some of your lower income single-family homeowners, you all have a right to be concerned. But I encourage you to reach out to Director Kirby Brady and Assistant Director Jeremy Bauer, who have done a great job thus far, to answer questions that you may have about the financial assistance program that might help either in full or in part subsidize those fees for your constituents. And last slide, please. I'd just like to say thank you for your consideration. And as always, we look forward to your continued support and collaboration.